what precedent would be set nationally that New York was powerless to stop someone who committed what they say are felonies, and Florida refuses to extradite?
Yes, so that's two questions. So it's speculation because it's not happening, but it's interesting. First, the precedent would be you file an extradition order. The second is Florida has to choose whether or not to honor it, and they probably would.
You think Ron DeSantis?
That's the question. I don't think the governor has all that authority. I don't know how all the particulars work.
He said that he wasn't going to get involved. He was very clear on that.
That's not getting involved and dishonoring a interstate extradition order are two different things.
Yeah, Pontius Pilate didn't get involved with Jesus'
Christ. Can you imagine?
Again, this is all speculation, but I think it's helpful.
But let's just entertain these two potential outcomes. The extradition order denied. Ron DeSantis saying we're not involved,
which I think would be a pretty ballsy and cool thing to do. But that's
I completely agree.
Yeah, but
what does that mean for law enforcement as a country? But wait. The other scenario I mentioned.
Sure.
Imagine Ron DeSantis saying, we have no choice. I am hereby ordering state police to Mar-a-Lago to arrest and transport Trump against his will to New York.
That would be insane.
Right.
Exactly. But that's what would have to happen.
Hold on. We have a precedent of a couple things. So the idea of a state or a locality saying that other people's laws don't apply to us is not new.
Yeah. California's doing it right now.
California's doing it with the gender stuff.
Vermont is trying to do it in
Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia are all sanctuary cities where they defy federal law and don't work federal agents. So that's not a perfect example, but this idea of blue states and blue cities carving out their kind of own place to, play, if you will. So that's one argument. The second thing is what would happen in a standoff between a former president and Florida state troopers. It'd be impossible to know.
My goodness, that would be so crazy.
The question would be what would be Trump's end goal, which is why Trump is going to New York. Because the reason why Trump is in New York is he sees massive upside to this because Alvin Bragg is doing what the other DAs decided not to do. He's raising money. He's getting points in the polls. And Donald Trump is now is now being positioned as the martyr of the American right.
Yep.
And that is so wild.
And being the martyr is incredibly popular.
And
martyrdom is a way to win popularity.
And what do you think the American left is thinking about it?
Depends who you're talking to. Mark Elias or your average crazy person in Brooklyn?
They're cheering for it.
Well, yeah, Mark Elias is probably not cheering for it. That's a separate issue. He's much more strategic than
that's the
them.
question about if the National Democratic Party is pro this.
The average Trump derangement syndrome Democrat is saying, finally.
Joy Behar on The View is all into it.
But these people are savages, and they're never going to stop in their bloodthirsty quest for revenge.
And that's my point. We have two completely bifurcated worldviews and cultures. Yeah. One that is calling for injustice, and one that is saying it's good that Trump turned himself into injustice. It makes no sense.
Well, no, I'm not saying. Yeah. I see it both ways. So define the injustice. You have to have the ends in mind, right? Your final and formal cause is developed. And I don't think that would have been necessarily prudent for Trump to say, you got to go send the troopers after me. It would have felt very like George Wallace-y, 1960s or 70s. Now, having Florida stand up and have the entire Florida state troopers stand down against an extradition order, that would have been interesting. But what I think does need to happen, and the only mature response that I've called for quite some time, is Republican DAs and Republican AGs need to start indicting and investigating members of the Democrat crime family. One that we can all agree on is fraudulent is the BLM criminal enterprise that materially benefited with $100 million in the summer of 2020, and they've been untouched.
Wasn't Act Blue being used to facilitate donations to some of these organizations?
Correct. Yeah, and Act Blue is a harder case to make, but we can say just with Black Lives Matter Global Network, with Patrisse Cullors, we now know there was material charitable fraud under any sort of reading.
She was buying all those houses and stuff.
$6 million mansion in Malibu for a content creators thing.
And the money went missing, I guess.
And the money went missing.
Let me pull up these sources.
And you go just to make sure. Fact check me on all of it, right?
There was a bunch of that.
She has a multiple real estate empire, right? She also paid her boyfriend, now husband, for security services for a healthy sum. You could fact check me on that. It was quite a lot. Yeah, NBC News is not what I would use as your...
No, but,
it's
also
just buried.
variety.
That's why. It's just going to take you more time to find the numbers.
BLM leaders condemn allegations of mismanaged funds.
Okay, that's a word salad headline. They're condemning their own mismanagement.
Sure, but it was even reported in...
I condemn my crime!
Here's LA Times. Black Lives Matter leader accused of stealing $10 million from organization.
There we go. Sure. That right there. So let's just pause there. And that's actually a separate one. That's not BLM Global Network.
Right.
But my guess is that somebody in a red state what's his name again? Is this the Global Network Foundation?
Shalomia Bowers?
Sure. Why is there not widespread investigations and indictments into the BLM charitable fraud?